Come on. Oh, goodness.
Can't hear anything.
The patriotic song and the hat for the Las Vegas Aviators baseball team doesn't make any sense at all to you. Please read the wheel, and it will still be nonsensical, but it will at least fit. So now, if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please proceed. And thank you to everyone who helped with the setup for today's meeting. Susan and Nikki for the setup. To Iris and David who are checking people in. Michael for doing the work as the sergeant at arms. Janet for selling raffle tickets. Lisa and Bert for doing the teardown. And Lisa for being the scribe. And last but not least, Jim Tucker for being our paparazzi today. Do we have any guests of Rotarians today? It looks like over here and over here.
President Richard and fellow Rotarians, it's my pleasure to have Carmen and Mark Liparelli here today. We're doing a check presentation in a few minutes.
Thank you, James.
And I think over there.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Today, I have the honor of having with me Bo Sheep, who is in investment and banking, and is provide Ray Sheep, who is movement mortgage.
Austin, you've really plugged in since you joined the club. Thank you so much. Now,
Michelle Calvi. Michelle is from Auburn, California, and from the Rotary Club up here. And she is looking up and hopefully going to be looking into our membership here. She was in trucking, and we also heard from her last night. She also started her own winery. Group is making so we'll check all of that out. And we also have here today a returning person who is in circulation now. It was Aaron Oborn. You should have all seen your email. His application is circulating.
Tony has done it again.
Any other guests? How about visiting Rotarians? I just actually we had a guest who is a visiting. All right, well, in that case, can we please have a big round of applause for all of our Jim, did you want to do your check presentation now? Try to wait till your mouth is.
You time that for. So, President Richard and fellow Rotarians, once again, my pleasure to present a check on behalf of Las Vegas Rotary Foundation and Howard Rotarians to the Ryan Liberelli Educational Trust. This check is in the amount of $5,000.
Thank you so much for this honor. We're grateful to all of you and Jennifer hosting us. I'm going to give you a real quick backstory on our son Ryan. He became addicted to OxyContin during his sophomore year at the University of Nevada. One of his roommates gave him an Oxy, and it became his drug of choice. We found out about it about a year after that. He wanted to go to rehab. He did. He was clean for 2.5 years, and then he relapsed. We're not sure when, and we don't know why or any of the details there. His last weekend, he was home with us. We said goodbye on Monday morning. He drove back down to Phoenix, where he was working and going to ASU, and he died on Wednesday morning about 3 in the morning. Somewhere in there, he bought 2 OxyContins. They were laced with fentanyl. He took one, which killed him, and the other was found on the counter by the police. After he died, we received cards, letters, texts, emails. We were inundated. Many people sent money, and many people asked what was our in lieu of. I don't know if any of you have kids, but when you have a child, we have a 24-year-old. We have not talked about our in lieu of, in case you've been one of your children. So I'm sure most of you haven't. It's just unfathomable. After several weeks, the fog started to lift. Our daughter Gracie, Mark, and I talked about it, and we thought, what could we do to honor Ryan? What would Ryan want us to do with this money? So a little bit about Ryan. I could stand here and tell you, like all your kids, he was smart, he was funny, he was kind, but the truth is, he was a smart ass and he was a flirt. He loved music, and I know we all love music. Ryan truly had a passion for music. He sent us all, texted us the song of the day or the album of the week, which we all listen to. This is one of the things his sister Gracie misses the most about him. He played the drums in the band. He couldn't sing at all, but that did not stop him from singing really loudly, especially when we were all in the car on a road trip, family vacation, which is also when he loved to pass gas. And he thought that was the funniest thing ever. He was also very passionate about sports. He worked out 5 or 6 times a week. He turned our whole family into soccer fans. He played soccer all through high school, and he played baseball and soccer while growing up. He cheered for the Knights, the Warriors, the Wolfpack, the San Francisco Giants, and he had that extra gene that so many guys seem to have, where you know which player went to which college, when, and then played for what professional team, and then when and to whom they were traded and retraded after that for their whole careers. He loved school, and all from kindergarten through 12, he didn't miss more than a handful of days of school. He loved to read and discuss current events. He volunteered for Mark Rubio's campaign while he was at Nevada. He was in the Business Student Council while at the University of Nevada. We would be talking as a family, debating, talking politics, maybe explaining something political or a current event as a family, and he would stop us and say, okay, now tell me what the other side would say. What's their argument? He wanted to know the whole, the whole story. Finishing his college degree was so important to him, and he was finishing his senior year at ASU with a double major in economics and political science when he died. His other passion was his family and his friends. So again, we come back to this in lieu of Gracie, Mark, and I talked all about those things. Should we somehow create an athletic scholarship? Do we do something with music, buy instruments for a school or a university, make a contribution to a political campaign? We finally settled on education and helping college kids pay their tuition, help with the cost of books or room and board. It took a while, it's a lot of red tape to start a trust and a philanthropy, but we finally launched the Ryan Rotary Educational Trust just over a year ago. We've had 3 candidates so far, and we're working to get the word out. I'll skip through, I tell you about the candidates and I'll stick to that. If you have Instagram, our daughter Gracie has started an Instagram page called Reminders of Ryan, on which she posts articles about the opioid epidemic, TED Talks about addiction, and photos and memories of Ryan. I also have some cards with website information if you're interested in seeing. We've done an annual walk for him up in Lake Tahoe. In his limited travels, he decided that Lake Tahoe was his favorite place on earth. And on the anniversary of his death, we've got together for 2 years now in October and done a walk to honor him. If you'll just indulge me one more minute, Mark and I got an email about a month ago, and I just would like to read it to you. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Liparelli. I found this email address via the page for Ryan's Trust. I wanted to reach out for a while, but I did not want to come across as selfish. I did not want to interrupt your grieving process. Ryan and I met on a flight when I was going to play UNLV in Las Vegas. I played for the UNR soccer team. When there's a team of 20 plus girls on a flight, seats are limited, and he wound up next to me. He was wearing an Argyle sweater. This was the fall of 2015. Ryan helped me reaffirm that I wanted to be in political science at UNR. He did just that, and I graduated with honors and a research award. I ended up doing my research on how Twitter impacts our generation's political views. This was a conversation I repeatedly had with Ryan. It was just one of many of the insightful ones I had with him. I think the larger point is that I just want to convey to you the effect he had on the world. Maybe it seems like a stretch, but now I'm in law school. I got into law school because of my grades and achievements in political science. Your son was there at the start of my collegiate career, helping me see that I wanted that major. He kindled the kinds of conversations that bred the beginnings of my thesis. Maybe I'm reaching here, but I feel that your son played a role in where I am now. As such, I am forever grateful that he was in my life. Beyond academics, your son was wise, charming, challenging, and witty. Your son's embodiment of these traits taught me a lot. He taught me about a familiar love when he talked about you, Gracie, and his grandma. He taught me that it's better to walk through life with a big smile. He taught me not to accept everything I'm told, especially when it comes to politics. If it means seeming like a contrarian, he taught me there is integrity in questioning the status quo. There's value in forming your own belief system. And lastly, he brought me a lot of laughs. I have faith that it was no mistake he wound up next to me on a random flight from Reno to Vegas, Halloween weekend of 2015. You should be so proud of yourselves. It was an honor to know him.
Okay.
And Kim, did we have any Paul Harris awards today? Not today, thanks. Marie, if you're still up there.
I'm here.
An update on Reading Week?
Yep. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for everyone who signed up for Reading Week. It's looking good, but we need some more readers. Just go on your computer and find your email from the librarian, and you can set yourself up for whatever day or time you would like. If you're having any trouble with it, you can contact me, but I'm asking you to do this if you have not already done it. You're all wonderful, and I greatly appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Hunt, I see on your screen, you're at least humoring me.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Richard.
Yeah, could Kirk Alexander change the audio setting, the Zoom? We can hardly understand anything.
It's on Zoom. It's in Zoom.
I can hear you, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, well, things are still going well. We're just under 70 chairs delivered now. We're continuing to deliver them to, in the last couple of ones, we had a veteran with PTSD that Howie did a delivery on. I had an amputee that I delivered to about a week and a half ago. So we're still getting the word out. Appreciate all the help that we're getting from all of you, getting referrals. Please continue to send those to me or John Williams, and we'll get them delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, President, past President Jim. Tony Kern, did you want to tell us about the status of our participation in the Rotary float in next year's Rose Parade?
No hands. Okay, can you all understand me? Because there's a lot of filters in here. Don't look at me like that, Mr. Steeren. Okay, what we're doing is there will be an email going out. We're trying to get a group of Rotarians from our club and the other 17 clubs to participate in the Rose Parade float, Rotary float for the Rose Parade, January 1, 2022. And so there will be an email going out shortly that will ask you to pick what your option is that you might be interested in if you are. There's going overnight, 2 days, 1 night, where we actually do decorating mid-December. There's another option where it's 3 days, 2 nights, and it includes participating as far as attending the parade or just coming out and working on it. But it's in motion. I have the support of Richard, thank you. We have the support of the chairman of the committee. He thinks it's a great idea. And we have a few other people already here ready and able to help put it all together. So we'll look out for it and let us know, because we have to have preliminary numbers of what kind of interest by March 2.
Thank you. You saw as you came in an announcement, and Sean also circulated an email announcement about a virtual social event where we can sign up for a wine tasting. Please take a look at that, and if it's something you're interested in, please respond soon, because there's a little bit of a lag time there, because you have to sign up, buy the wines, they have to ship them to you, you have to show self-restraint and not drink the wine when you get it, and wait for the virtual event. So please take a look for that email, and if it's something you want to do so as a social event for the club with other club members, please sign up. A number of you have asked about the speaker from last week and the Concourse d'Elegance. We are going to go forward as a sponsor of that, our club. So if that's something you're interested in participating in and helping, please see, I don't see, yeah, either Brian or Kathy Dalby. I'm sorry, Katie Crockett, President-elect Katie Crockett. We still have need for more people to help with our audiovisual. With Kirk Holmes out of town this week, we're hanging in there, but it would be really good to have more backup. So anybody that has any kind of talent in that area that would be willing to help, please see Kirk Alexander. Susan, did you have an announcement about the 25 Club?
Fellow Rotarians and guests, we have a 25 Club event that everybody's been waiting for. I just know it. It's going to be next Thursday, March 4th in the evening at 6 o'clock, right here at Lowry's in the lounge. And all 25 Club members are welcome, and even our regular members are welcome, and bring significant others if you want to. I would, if you want to RSVP to me, you can, but I was not told by Rose Faloco, our president of the 25 Club, that that was mandatory. But I'd be more than happy to put you on the list. Thank you very much. I hope you'll be there. It should be nice.
Is there a charge?
I think it's BYOB or pay for your PYOB, right?
Okay. And last but not least, past President Jim Cole, did you have any announcements about the Green Our Planet project?
President Richard and fellow Rotarians, as you recall, a few weeks ago, Green Our Planet came and spoke to our club about their gardens that help with STEM teaching at the elementary schools here in Clark County, Nevada. So I decided, and Kirk Alexander, both of us, we made a Leffler grant application. For those of you who don't know, Leffler grants are from the district and they are for educational purposes. We received a $1,000 Leffler grant, and President Richard has graciously offered to cover the balance. And so we have enough for at least one garden at a school. We're going to figure out a school that has a tie to Las Vegas Rotary Club. All of the schools that we sponsor already have these gardens, but there are quite a few schools that are named for our former members and past presidents. And so we will associate with one of those schools and we will have a garden put in with a Rotary plaque.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, let's go to the raffle drawing then. I don't see any of the other people for the other announcements. So for the chance to pull a joker, we have somebody in the room. And the ticket number is 5310957. 5310957. And it looks like the chance to draw the joker goes to the Air Force today. And the Lowry's bucks also go to someone in the room. 5310797. There we go. Whoops, there.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for announcements. So please enjoy it. A limited amount of time for fellowship, and then we'll go on to our guest speaker. Thank you.
TJ, did you get a lot of wind down there in Phoenix yesterday?
No, it was very pleasant down here.
Oh, good.
Had a little wind this morning, but maybe 10 miles an hour. That's probably it.
You gonna
So
golf?
when
while
you
you're down
going,
there?
when you going golfing? Yeah, that was my question.
Well, we're gonna look at the tea time schedule and just see if there's a spot in there where Jane and I can go by ourselves. We're not too ready to get with the group here yet.
Yeah. How's the babies?
Good. Brian just had a COVID test, so they're gonna come down Saturday and we'll go swimming. I'll heat up the pool for them.
That's good. Well, I feel sad for Michael and Amanda and little Samuel. He had surgery on Tuesday. Samuel did and took out his adenoids and his tonsils. So the poor little guy, he just looks so miserable.
Well, the good news is he'll never remember the tonsil surgery.
Exactly. Yeah. And he gets to eat lots of ice cream.
Funny, the only thing I ever remember from my childhood was when I got home after having my tonsils taken out. My parents had a brand new bicycle in the living room when I walked in the door. Funny
Right.
what you remember, right?
And then you screamed and it hurt your throat like hell, right? Probably.
Hi, Ginger.
Hello, Mrs. Anderson.
There we go. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Good, good. You're looking good.
Thank you.
Are you in Vegas?
I am. Yeah. Been here for a couple weeks straight.
Okay.
Hey, Ginger, what do you know about the event down there in, I think it's partly in Havasu and Pirates Cove in April called Desert Storm. Do you know anything about that? It's supposed to be
is
like a
that the-
powerboat, offshore powerboat races.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's pretty cool because you can actually get out on the lake and watch them.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. Or you can watch them from shore and you can be really pretty close. It's a cool event.
Yeah, a friend wants me to go down. I just don't know if I'm ready for an event yet.
Yeah, I don't know. They haven't been doing anything in Havasu this year. But next weekend there's a car show, and so they're starting to gradually have events. But I don't know if they're gonna have limited numbers of people that can come out. But the cool thing, Jim, is if you wanted to like rent a boat, it could be you and your buddy. And you wouldn't have to be around anybody.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have done that up in Tahoe last weekend when they had the hockey games up there. That looked like a lot of
That
fun.
would have been fun.
Yeah, it looked like a makeshift McCovey Cove up in Lake Tahoe. They had a few hockey pucks go in that lake. It was pretty interesting.
What did they? I didn't quite follow that, but I heard they postponed the game. What, did somebody break through the ice or?
No,
What
it
happened?
started. It was the sun was out, and it actually softened it to a point where it was not hard enough to skate on. So that was the day that the Golden Knights was playing, and so they postponed the game from like 1 PM to about 9 o'clock at night, and it hardened back up, and they were fine.
Oh, okay. That must have been pretty neat to do an outdoor event like that.
You know, they do that every year at different locations, and mostly though they've been in stadiums. They did one in the picture behind me there. They did one right in the middle of Fenway Park many years ago. They put a hockey rink in the middle of the field. But this one was spectacular. I think the very best one with the scenery of the snow-covered mountains in the background and the lake, and it was just gorgeous. I mean, it's really a shame that they couldn't have had some stands and fans up there, because I had been there in a heartbeat if we weren't, experiencing what we're experiencing in a normal situation.
Yeah, me too.
Did they have any spectators at all, or?
No, well, the few people with their kayaks kind of paddled up next to the lake, because the rink that they built was on the 18th hole of the golf course, which was right next to the lake. So you were maybe, I don't know, probably 30 yards from the water. And some people took their kayaks and they went over there hoping to either get a puck that went over the glass and out into the water or whatever. And they do at McCovey Cove in San Francisco.
Yeah, they had an outdoor one at Caesar's Palace about 30 years ago.
Right. That was the very first one. That was the very first, they call it the Winter Classic. And they always pick a couple, I think it was the Kings. I'm trying to remember the Kings and the LA Kings and whoever Gretzky was with at the time, I think Calgary or whatever. And yeah, but they had the similar challenges because it was pretty warm here during the game. Does everybody
some
get
friends who
the,
live in Ottawa.
is everybody getting, that's on Zoom, getting the wheel each week emailed? I kind of hit and miss. Some weeks I get it, some weeks I don't. And I wonder if there is one or not. I don't know.
It just seems to be
Me
coming
too.
out after the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, either
Yeah.
the same day or afterwards. That's when I've seen it. And I don't know. Not sure why maybe we should mention something to,
Well, it doesn't help for trying to promote people to come on to even on Zoom or go to a meeting when you get the wheel after the fact. And that doesn't help.
yeah, I do send out each month the upcoming month by email, but I don't know whether people are looking at that, before. So the list of the speakers is in the monthly electronic newsletter I send out. Fifth wheel.
The fifth wheel. Yeah, I get the fifth wheel once a month, it seems like, but I'm not always getting the East Weekly wheel.
Yeah, two different sources of the feed. The weekly wheel comes from Print Horizons, from Fawn Chandler, and she sends it directly. So
Yeah, I don't have this
I'll
week.
send a message and see if I can. I know it's ready before the meeting because they have to print it before the meeting. So there's no reason why they can't send it the night before.
There's been a couple times when I've talked to Sean and I've told her, like out of the last 2 months, I missed these 3 wheels. Could you send? And she sends them, and she can send them to you, but I don't want to keep bothering her for that. It's just rather.
Well,
Yeah.
I've been trying to
I don't
send
know
it
whether
to
you're
the,
aware. Yeah, go ahead.
I've been
sorry.
trying to send it to the wives, and same thing. It doesn't help to send it out after the fact.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it used to be
You
published.
can get it off the club website. It's not easy to find. You go to the club website, and then there's a pull down for like news, and then there's you got to go like 3 levels down, and then there's like another link for wheel, but then you got to go into that, and you have to pull down the weekly wheel, and then you can actually download it to your desktop.
Yeah, I used to do that, but I haven't seen. You're right. It must be pretty well buried because I used to do that whenever I needed one or anything, but I haven't been able to find them. So I'll have to do a little bit more digging, like you said.
I'm too lazy. I want to hit the
Yeah,
forward button.
You've earned that laziness.
Yeah.
You're not lazy in anything else that I know of. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go on the website now while we're talking. If I get to it before Richard comes back on, I'll tell you the exact navigation.
So Tom, I think I mentioned to you, just chit chatting here. I've got 2 projects going on at my house. I've got my shower enclosure ripped out right now. I have no shower enclosure in the master bathroom, and they're gonna come tomorrow to redo the shower pan. I guess they do some kind of coating to try to make it so it's easier to clean and all that. And then those guys are coming back Monday to install the new shower enclosure. And then the other project is I think I found a TV that will fit with about a 1/2 inch space on either side of that opening above the fireplace. I've got to bring the pop out a little bit, so make it look like it's just a solid wall. When you'll see the TV, but it'll take up the whole. It'll be like sitting in a driver and on that couch. I think it's good. But I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and I think I mentioned to you, Jeanette moved back to town, a friend of ours from Napa. So I helped her hang her 75-inch TV, which gave me incentive thinking I need a TV like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get the 82-inch at Costco, I think.
They keep
Jim,
getting
I've
bigger
heard
and
about
bigger.
Jim, I've heard about club fundraisers, but you don't need to rip out your shower enclosure to raise funds. I mean,
Yeah, right.
There's other ways we can get money, right?
Whatever it takes, Michael.
Have a GoFundMe account.
That's real dedication. So I can give you the navigation for the wheel. So if you go to the Las Vegas Rotary website, there's a pull down called News and Updates. And then if you pull down on that, there's a link for the wheel, and that'll show you the front page of the last few wheels. And if you want to actually look at the whole thing, you click on the image of the front page of whatever you're interested in, and it'll allow you to download the whole thing to your
Great.
desktop.
Thanks, Stu.
It doesn't have the current one on it. It only has last week so far.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think it gets added up there till a week or so after. So like Karen's saying, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? I'd like to be able to go on there and download it on Wednesday to know who's speaking the next day and what's going, get a little bit of an idea.
Yeah. Well, if
So
you,
maybe
if you
that's-
search your emails for the fifth wheel, you'll find the last one at the beginning of the month, and it'll have the whole schedule for the whole week, the whole month.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe we need to ask Fawn. Maybe that would be a great message if you could get it to her. Is it possible for her to? I know the cutoff date for stuff is on Tuesday, so I wonder if she could maybe post the wheel on the website on Wednesday midday, or Wednesday by 5 or something like that, so that we could go on Wednesday night and download it. That'd be great.
Yeah, they used to email it to everybody the day before, so that's even better than posting it.
Yeah, that would be better. That would make Karen happier, I think.
That would make me very happy.
And maybe Kirk Holmes is listening to us all too. It might be nice to have have something on the homepage at the very top without having to navigate to it, that just has like the upcoming week, just the name of the speaker and the topic, the very first thing. And you want more detail, you can dive into the rest of it.
We had a calendar on the
think
website that had that. I'm looking right now,
Yeah.
see if it's still there.
Yeah, you just gotta dive in a link or two. It might be the kind of thing that should be like the very first headline that comes up at the top.
That used to have the
Yep.
speaker on it, but it doesn't now.
Kirk described some of the logistics. If you look down in your chat there, he gives you some of the logistics of getting it on the website.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see.
Says it's the second slide in the slider.
Yeah.
It still doesn't have a forward
Yep.
button.
I was watching Fox Business today, and they were trying to get a shot from the guy's iPad up on the screen. They were doing the same thing Ginger was doing. They couldn't quite get it in focus. So he finally read it. It was like one number, 1.54% treasury yield. Did not have to show the screen. Apparently, the yields on the treasury bonds are approaching what is an attractive alternative to putting stuff in the stock market. I didn't quite catch the economics behind it, but they're saying that's not good for encouraging people to invest. And the market right now has dropped like 2%.
What goes up has to come down.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, it was way up, so it's just volatility means that people are just kind of uncertain about what the future is, and you got all these competing forces of the virus, the vaccine, kind of unknown what the federal government's going to do, and the stimulus bill or not, or minimum wage, and the market hates uncertainty, so they They usually react negatively. I think I'm going to buy diamonds.
Michael, how is Samuel today?
He's sitting right here. He's not happy, but he's
Yeah.
awake.
Hi, Samuel.
He's awake.
Samuel.
Hi.
Hi, buddy.
Yeah.
He's talking, so throat can't be that sore.
Yeah.
right?
So he still needs to. Ice cream?
Knuckles, buddy.
Just had ice cream.
Yeah.
Did not
Ice cream
look
for
very
lunch.
happy.
So Knuckles. Knuckles,
Hello,
switch him.
Samuel, how
Knuckles,
are
switch
you?
him. Knuckles.
There you go, buddy.
Yay,
All right.
Knuckles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Boom.
Knuckles.
All right.
Boom.
He's eating ice cream.
Are we eating ice cream?
Yeah, so it's long nights.
Hi,
but
Tom.
he's awake. He's getting through it.
So what I just noticed, Stu, on
That's
our
Danny's one. Okay.
website, anyways, is I see where you're talking about the wheels, but it's like there's one missing, I think, because there's not one for January 28th. It goes from January 21 to February 4th. So I don't know. They used to have them just PDFs. You could go on the website and there would be all these. You just take the PDF and drag it to your desktop. You were done. That was the easiest. That
Yeah,
was,
you can still do that. It's just a two-step process. You got to,
okay. So you're
you
saying
gotta
click on the page itself.
yeah, click on the page itself, and then it'll bring up the actual PDF.
Oh, I see. I see download. Yep. I see it for there.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know why that one's missing, that January 28th, but that for some reason.
Yeah. Unknown.
Oh, he's
Communication.
getting
It
ready.
looks like we're getting ready again. Yeah.
Okay.
Please turn the audio on for from feeding us on Zoom from Lowry's.
Oh, let me turn mine.
Lowry's is still on mute. Need to turn it on.
Rotarians and guests. I am very happy to have Matt Seltzer here to speak with you today because he has so much interesting information to supply. I met Matt about 4 years ago when I worked at the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, and I knew immediately this was a guy I was going to really enjoy working with. He's got lots of personality. He's always on board to collaborate. He is definitely there to help you. He's one of those kind of people. Matt has a wife and 2 daughters, and he is working from home, and he's online a lot. And so I reconnected with Matt online through LinkedIn, and this conversation just kept going, and I invited him to be a speaker, and he said yes. And so luckily he's here. So what Matt does, he has worked with big companies like R&R Advertising, and again with the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. And he is the guy that provides all that data behind marketing plans. And he has scaled his business S2 Research, and he has scaled it to the small to mid-sized companies so that they can get that expertise that only the big guys had. So I'd like to welcome Matt Seltzer to speak S2 Research. Thank you, Matt.
Hi, everyone. Oh, here's the clicker. Wonderful. Oh, see, they make it tricky for me. How's everyone doing today? Excellent. Oh, should be now. We're gonna find out. Nope. We got it. Yeah, I just put it. All right. Everyone ready? Still digesting the food, or should we dive right into it? All right, I got some energy. I like that. That's wonderful. So we are talking, today's presentation is the Creative Catalyst. I'm going to explain what that means in a second here. But just, oh, it was working. See, this is how they get you. Okay, well, we're gonna get this going. I'm clicking it, I swear. Nope. Yeah. This is totally normal. It happens to every guy at least once. Got one left. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, hi, everyone. My name is Matt Seltzer, and I am a market research and marketing strategy consultant who lives out here in Las Vegas. I work with, just like Susan said, a lot of small to medium-sized companies under the brand name S2 Research. I am the market research partner for marketers. So, real quick to kind of explain what that means, market research, exactly what Susan was saying, is how we go about adding data and insights and information into marketing plans, which, real quick, does anyone here work in marketing? A couple people, I see some hands. Anyone here own a business? A few more hands, excellent. Anyone here working nonprofit? Got all different kinds of hands. So I always make the case that everyone is a marketer, and we'll kind of get into what that is, but especially all those hands that raised, we're going to talk about some big stuff that fits into that model. But research, like I said, is a big thing that is almost a luxury for some of the bigger corporations out there, and some of the bigger businesses. And from my experience, it's something that can help almost every single business that does marketing. Which kind of brings us into what we're talking about today. We're talking about creativity within the world of marketing to create better marketing. And specifically, we're going to be talking about how you do that by asking questions, which at the end of the day is the heart of market research, is asking and answering questions. So I already asked a few people here what we're doing, but like I said, everyone here is a marketer. And I'll make that case in a few minutes again, too. But why do I say that? Well, I say that because of the definition that I use for marketing. So what am I talking about for the sake of when I'm talking about marketing? What am I saying when I'm talking about marketing? And to kind of sum that up, I use a great story that I came up with a little while ago called The Fictitious Epic of Marketcles. Now, real quick, I want to explain, this is going to explain what marketing is, but this is not a true story. This is totally fiction. So anyone who comes out here says that I heard this is exactly how marketing started, it's not going to be the case. But it is an awesome metaphor. It's really going to kind of tie together what we're going to be talking about with the rest of this presentation. And like I said, anyone who has customers, has clients, owns a business, works in marketing, works in nonprofit, this is going to fit into what we do. So we're talking about the fictitious epic of Marketcles, and we're going to start our story with two main characters. On the left here, we have buyer Personius, and on the right is Sellerus. So two characters of our story. Now, buyer Personius here, he has money. He wants to go out and buy goods. Sellerus, he's the guy who owns a store. He has goods to sell. Now, this seems pretty easy what's going to happen. Buyer Personius is going to give Sellerus some money. Sellerus is going to give some stuff back in return. And when that happens, when two individuals exchange goods and services for goods and services, that's called a market. In classical economics, this is a market. A buyer and a seller have come together. Now, again, we got our buyers, we've got our sellers, should be pretty easy. They can find each other, they can exchange money, they can exchange services, and everyone gets what they want. Except it's not actually that easy. Anyone, again, who's worked in marketing or owns a business can probably attest to this. Just because you have buyers out there doesn't mean they know how to find you. Likewise, if you're a buyer, let's say you want to go out and buy the best widget possible, how do you know how to go find that widget? And the challenge with all of this, and I have it depicted as a city here, is that there's a lot of noise. You may have the best product, the best service in the world, or you have the means to go buy the best product or service. But if you can't find that, what you're going to have is all these wires getting crossed. No one wins. Obviously, you know, I'm a marketer. I think about sellers here. So anyone who's selling something, services, they're not finding the people that they're looking for, but our buyers, they're struggling just as well. This is a very real thing that happens in the world of marketing. So enter our hero, Marketcles, connector of Greeks. So Marketcles, the star of our story here, he sees that this is happening. You know, he's looking around and sees that, okay, buyer, Personius, sellers, they're not seeing each other. They're not finding each other the way they need to be. And he decides to start bringing them together. Now, this starts with just hand-holding, bringing people from buyers to sellers saying, hey, you need that widget? I know the best widget supplier in the world. Let me take you to it. And every single time he does that, every single time Marketcles brings a buyer and a seller together, he's creating a market. He is marketing. So again, this is kind of the definition that we're talking about, because what we're really doing in the world of marketing is creating markets. We're bringing buyers and sellers together. And buyers and sellers, I mentioned nonprofits before, that could be a very whole world of things. It could be donors. It could be anyone who just wants to connect for lead opportunities. But bringing people together, that is marketing. We're creating markets. Now, I mentioned hand holding, but there's a lot of different ways you can do marketing, and Marketplace in our story here, he went about a lot of different ways. First off, he talked to the local news. He said, look, anytime that you're writing a story on sellers, I want you to mention my guy Sellers here. Let's get some word out about that. Speaking of anytime the news is talking about selling and Sellers, Marketplace here, he even just talked to everyone, influencers. He went to networking groups in the local Rotary Club to give speaking presentations on why they should be going to Sellers. Likewise, he put up maps, he created literature and brochures so people could find Sellers a little bit easier. And he also worked with sellers to build out promotions, pricing strategies, things that might make more buyers come through the door a little more frequently, spend a little bit more money. Every single one of those pieces is a piece of marketing. And what Marketplace found is that the more that he did this, the more that he did these tactics of targeted marketing, the more buyers came to his sellers, to his clients. Long story short, the more that he did this targeted marketing, the more markets he created. So what am I talking about when I talk about marketing? And again, this extends to any business, anyone who has clients, anyone who has customers. What I'm really talking about is creating markets. That is the inherent foundation of everything that it is about that we do in the world of marketing. And like I said, I'm always going to stress this. If you have clients, customers, a website, you're engaged in marketing. So thinking about it this way, thinking about it, this is the inherent essence of what we're doing. It really kind of sets the tone. And again, we're going to talk more about what that means. But why do I tell this story? Why do I tell the story of Marketplace? And like I was saying, this is what we all do. Every single person in this room at some point in their work life, in their business, in their week, has to bring someone together with their business. They have to connect people. Now, obviously, marketing has gotten very convoluted. There's digital, there's internet, and every single piece of this is a story. But whether you're putting up billboards or thinking of something clever to put on the billboard, maybe you're coming up, you're working with an ad agency to get on television, or maybe you're putting up digital campaigns. Maybe you're even just a small business owner trying to handle all of this while you're also running your business. However you are engaged in the world of marketing, what we're really doing is trying to connect buyers and sellers. But the other reason I tell this is because marketers are storytellers. This is really the main reason why I like to tell this story to open up this presentation. I'm sure everyone's kind of heard this before. Has anyone ever heard the concept that marketing is storytelling? I got a few hands. Okay, cool. So marketers are storytellers, and marketing is about telling stories. And what do I mean by that? Well, specifically, there's a lot of different ways in the world of marketing that I could bring a buyer and seller together. Maybe I'm doing digital marketing or advertising. Maybe I'm working with an advertising agency or a public relations agency, maybe a combination of any and all. But however I choose to go about connecting buyers and sellers, about telling them about my products, that is a story. And in fact, it's us marketers, business owners, strategists, anyone like that who's holding the pens, who's deciding the direction that we're going to go with our marketing story. But of course, that's storytelling. That's the essence of marketing, but that's not the focus of today's presentation. What I wanted to talk to you guys today about is about taking marketing, asking questions, and using the answers to those questions to create better marketing. Now, obviously, everyone here has worked in some form of marketing. You've probably seen some successes, some failures. And what I'm saying is that by asking questions, we can hone in on more strategic concepts. Now, what do I mean by better marketing? I just said it a second ago, but strategy. Strategy is a huge part of this. The other side of the coin is creative. There's something huge and important about the world of marketing and business that the more creative the idea, the more people latch onto it. Let me just dive a little bit into that. When I'm talking strategy, so when I'm talking about strategy and marketing, again, we mentioned there's internet, there's television, there's working with an ad agency, there's trying to do it yourself. And when I say strategy, I'm specifically meaning using the right pieces of those tools in the right combination. You could have the best billboard in the world, but if no one knows where to go after your billboard, that's not strategy. If you're on the TV news talking about your business, and that's a form of public relations, but the people who watch that don't have a way to go to your business or go to your website after the fact, that's not strategy. Whereas if you're thinking those pieces through, my audience is going to do X, then I'm going to present Y to them, then I'm going to present Z to them, that is a strategy. And likewise, creative, there's something inherently beautiful and functional about marketing that is more creative. The example I always illustrate here is Wendy. And if for those who don't know, Wendy, this is Wendy from Wendy's, the burger restaurant. Why is she decked out with a big flag and a sword? Because at the end of 2019, this is a great story. I love this one. Wendy's, so the burger restaurant, they produced a Dungeons and Dragons campaign starring Wendy. Now, for those who don't know, Dungeons and Dragons is a board game. And this board game has been downloaded over 100,000 times nationwide. And you might think, well, why would Wendy's create a board game? Well, the reason for this is in their marketing story, Wendy's realizes it doesn't matter how much marketing you do, I'm never going to be able to sell a cheeseburger to that person every single day. That's not my job as a marketer for Wendy's to sell a cheeseburger every day. What it is, my job to do is to make sure that when this customer thinks about buying a cheeseburger, they think about Wendy's first. And I'll tell you, if you can get your customers to sit down and play a 3-hour board game with your mascot, that's a pretty darn good way to make sure that they're thinking about your burgers when it comes to burger time. So again, we're talking about marketing, asking questions, better marketing. That's going to be more strategic, more creative, and specifically, what kind of questions are we going to be answering? So this is going to go back to, we're going to go real old school with it, and I'm a big old school kind of guy with stuff. But how do we tell a good story? What are the questions that we need to ask in a good story? And this is really inherent to every business owner and every marketer out there. If you want to tell a great story, like I said, this is very elementary, but you need to be able to answer these main questions about a story. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Again, it might sound elementary, but who is your audience? And do you have multiple audiences? Does anyone here sell a product or a service? Couple hands. Does anyone here sell multiple products or services to multiple different people? See a few more hands. Exactly. So do you have multiple audiences, and do you need to speak to them differently? Why? Why are they buying from you? And likewise, why are they buying from your competitors? If you can answer that question, that's a wonderful way to start a strategy. What matters to them? Are we selling on price? Are we selling on experience, convenience? There's a lot of different things that matter to customers, and how you position yourself in that realm helps explain your marketing. Where do they think about you? So if you have customers, they're thinking about your business or the problem that you solve at some point. We need to be understanding of when that is. How do they hear about you, and when are they ready to buy? And those are two very different points. Like I said, that's a real broad overview, but when you can answer every single one of those questions about your customers, your clients, your future clients, even your past clients, you could start to tell a better story from the case of a marketing standpoint. And specifically, I want to focus on this what section here, specifically what would happen if. So this is the final side of the research questioning part of marketing, where we have some answers, we've asked some questions, and now we want to get creative with it and kind of curious and a little bit of weird. So what would happen if, I'm going to tell you a great story that sums this up. And oh, come on, the timing's not working. Okay, so we jump back in time to 1975. That was supposed to be a great video of the DeLorean taking us back there, by the way. But technology, this isn't the technology we were promised for 2021, right? Of course, maybe we should have an actual DeLorean. So next time. Anyway, so we're back into 1975. I'm going to tell you a great story about what would happen if. 1975, disco ruled the world. In fact, speaking of the world, Coca-Cola was out there telling the world that they would like to buy the world of Coke. Now, I'm sure everyone remembers that campaign. It was real popular in the 70s, and it's actually one of Coca-Cola's most successful campaigns in history. They want to buy the world of Coke. Just to talk about how good Coca-Cola was doing at this time, so 1970s, if 10 bottles of soda were sold anywhere on the planet, in 1975, 4 of them were going to be Coca-Colas. That's compared to just 1 Pepsi. So obviously, between market share, you can tell Coca-Cola is doing pretty well. Now, the obvious question, or the takeaway, I guess, that we could take from this data, that, you know, half the 2 in 5 sodas are going to be Coca-Colas, is that people like Coke more, right? Well, Pepsi actually wanted to ask that question. Do people really like Coke more, or are they buying Coke more because they think they like Coke more? And what Pepsi did, they wanted to go about answering this question. And what they did is they asked a lot of people to drink 2 small glasses of unlabeled soda. Does anyone remember this campaign? Yeah. So it's called the Pepsi Challenge, where real consumers were asked to drink small Dixie cups amounts of soda, 2 unlabeled products, and then they would pick their favorite one. And in the vast majority of cases, Pepsi was the winner, which blew people's minds. I mean, this is an audience who thinks Coca-Cola, I love Coca-Cola. If 10 sodas are sold, 4 of them are going to be Cokes. But here we are, everyone's trying this product out. Pepsi is the winner in a blind taste test over and over and over. This was huge for Pepsi's marketing. It was huge for the audience listening to it. And it was outright terrifying for Coca-Cola. Now, one of the major takeaways from this that Coca-Cola scientists saw with the data is that around the 70s, consumer taste buds were changing. We wanted sweeter flavors, less salty, and Coca-Cola did exactly what you'd expect. And they spent 10 years in development of creating a new product that would match those new flavors. People want sweeter flavors, a little less salt, a little different viscosity. And what they ended up coming up with, this was a full 10 years later, it took them to develop a truly Coca-Cola worthy product that matched that Pepsi expectation. And they came out with, in 1985, New Coke. The people hated it. New Coke is one of the biggest marketing failures in the history of marketing. And when Coca-Cola went out and asked why, we created this new product just for you, audience, why didn't you like it? They got some real interesting responses. First off, most people said it was too sweet. Here we are, Coca-Cola is making a product that's intentionally sweeter, and everyone says this is too sweet for me. I can't do it. Likewise, a lot of people who liked Coca-Cola felt betrayed. They said, look, I've been drinking Coca-Cola my entire life. You changed the product on me. It's not what I grew up with. And the last piece of information that they received when they asked, why didn't this work, is most people said, look, I didn't want you to change the flavor of Coke. I love Coke. I've always preferred Coke. Now that's an interesting question. What do you mean they always preferred Coke? We've seen definitively from the data that people prefer Pepsi. In a blind taste test, people prefer Pepsi. Well, the problem here is that that data is actually wrong. So if we ask a consumer to drink 2 small shot glass size amounts or Dixie cups of a drink, in the vast majority of cases, in this example, they're going to choose Pepsi. Fun fact, though, humans don't actually like sweet as much as we think we do. We like small amounts of sweet. It's one of the reasons candy is so much smaller. Dessert is smaller than meals. It's one of the reasons that if you serve 2 beverages in a small Dixie glass, the Pepsi, the sweeter one, is probably going to be the winner. But when you ask people to actually drink a whole can of a sweetened product, on the whole, on the average, most people are less interested. They're looking for something a little saltier, a little less sweet. Basically, they're looking for Coca-Cola. Again, this is on the whole, on the averages. But the power in the Pepsi challenge comes from that Dixie cup. The fact that they made sure they asked a question that they knew they could win because they set up the data in such a way that would help them. Again, consumers don't drink small amounts of soda, but that's exactly the test that Pepsi put out there that helped them shine. And what were the results of that? By asking a great question, first off, Pepsi changed consumer perception. You know, they asked, are people drinking Coke because they think everyone likes Coke? And they actually got a lot of people to hear real consumers say, you know what, I actually think I prefer Pepsi. That obviously had a huge impact on their market share. They did go up, and they've actually been climbing ever since. Coca-Cola and Pepsi are still duking it out even to this day, and Coca-Cola is still the dominant leader, but not as much as they were. But perhaps the biggest marketing win from this story, I really think, is the existence of New Coke. You know, here's Pepsi. They've championed their brand, but more importantly, they've put their #1 competitor on tilt. Anyone play poker? That's a term. So again, that's the power of asking great questions in marketing. And that's a big macro example, but there's a lot of ways we can take that back to the local level as well. Just talking about what Pepsi did here when we're asking questions, they went out and this is a form in research. This is a form of interviews. Now we're setting up a test, but we're literally asking customers in the Pepsi challenge, which of these do you like better? That's research. That's asking questions in marketing. And that, like I said, is a form of interviews. But how else can we ask questions in marketing as business owners, as business leaders? And there's a lot of different ways. First off, has anyone here ever taken a survey? Okay, good. A few hands. Everyone who didn't, I know you've probably taken a survey. Don't worry. But I'm a huge fan of surveys. I like surveys, especially because I'm a numbers guy, a data guy. And when you ask a lot of people the same question over and over, you can then measure how different groups see things, are viewing things, how they think about your business, your industry, your competitors. So surveys, that's another great way to ask questions. Likewise, measurement. Has anyone ever asked this question? Did my marketing work? I got one left. There we go. So that's a real question that comes up in marketing. You know, a lot of people say, well, I spent X on marketing this year. Did it work? And really, we're asking, what is the ROI at that point? You know, I put money in, did I get money back? But the best way to always answer that is to measure it, to have specific plans in place before you even go to market to say, well, where are we at now? What are we going to be doing? And what are the expected results? And then if it worked, wonderful. And if it didn't work, you even have more information to make your next go at marketing even better. Data. So again, I'm a numbers guy. We live in the world of data. There is more data now than ever before. And most people even have more data now than they think they do. Even if we're not talking marketing data, if you have customer data, audience data, sales data, what you can do with myriad different technologies is discover the trends in that data. And again, this kind of goes back to what we're talking about. It's about telling a different story or a better story. Data can help us tell stories, and understand stories. Likewise, we can also observe. If anyone here has customers or clients and you have some sort of waiting room, or even if your existing team right now is talking to clients via Zoom, if you can sit in that waiting room or jump into that Zoom as a guest and just observe to see how your customers, your future customers, your leads, even past customers view your business, do business with your business. Just watching and observing that is a form of research. And actually, I work with a lot of ad agencies, and that's something we do now is we go into storefronts and sit and observe. And you'll be amazed the things that people, we can take away from that. How are people engaging with your POS system? How are they finding products? Every single step in that process, just watching people can help you make it a little bit better for them. And talking, a lot of people aren't always comfortable talking to their customers, their clients, but when you get a chance to just have these candid moments with people and say, well, hey, what did you think of coming into my store? What did you think about doing business with me? What did you think about making a donation to this nonprofit? Did it feel the way you expected it to? Asking for feedback like that can always be terrifying, but the feedback that you get is outright incredible for the sake of marketing. So like I said, a lot of different ways to ask questions. And when we do ask those questions, we'll get great information. We'll learn about audiences' motivations, their pain points, what are their goals. I always say that every single business in this world is a solution to someone's problem. So it's up to us as marketers or business owners to find out what is that problem that we solve. That's exactly right. And tell the story that brings our customers back to us. So I mentioned when you ask questions, you can get answers and then learn to ask even better questions. And I've got one more real good story for you here about asking even better questions. In this case, the question I want to ask the world, and this is a real question that was asked, is how do you turn everyone into an athlete? Now, I'll be the first to tell you I'm not an athlete, and COVID's been terrible for that, even if it was. But that is a real question, that how do you turn everyone into an athlete, that a real ad agency, a real marketing team was asked to answer. So in 1987, Nike asked Whedon and Kennedy to answer this question. How do you turn everyone into an athlete? For those who don't know Whedon and Kennedy, they're a very big ad agency. They have offices all over the world. They've been around for 45 years. And actually just now they did, if anyone saw Mario Lopez selling KFC chicken on Lifetime, that's their work as well. But this is a great advertising agency, and they're real versed in research. And Nike asked them again this question: we want to turn everyone to an athlete. How do we do that? So Whedon and Kennedy looked at the problem. This big ad agency looked at the problem, and they said, okay, we've got athletes. Nike's making products for athletes. And now we've got these non-athletes. We want to sell products to them. How do we do that? Now, again, thinking through the story concept, Nike went about asking that. They conducted some interviews. They asked the who, what, when, where, why questions, the same thing that we're talking about a second ago. They asked everyone, who do you think is an athlete? So every single customer that they could talk to, what is your definition of an athlete? Why? Why would someone want to be an athlete? What does this audience think about athletes? Because again, we're talking motivations, perceptions. How does the audience think that they're like athletes now? And when do they think about being an athlete? Now, again, this is super nitty gritty for marketing, but if you're selling some form of athletic product, being able to answer every single one of these questions by asking your real audience is going to be powerful. And like I said, this is exactly what Whedon and Kennedy did. And this was the results that they got. So again, along this story of not athletes to athletes, what they saw is there's a whole spectrum of what it means to be an athlete. There's people who work out every day. There's people that are amateur athletes. There's people that just play golf and want to be a hobbyist. And then there's people who want to lose weight. And what they really took away from this, the marketers here, is that we need to change the definition of what it means to be an athlete. So rather than not athletes and athletes, we've updated this to amateur athletes and professional athletes. And in between these two spectrum of, we've got people who just start out all the way up to the pros, everyone on the spectrum is an athlete. Now, that ties it in of how do we make everyone an athlete, but what is the story? Well, the other side of the story that they learned from this is that every single one of those athletes wanted to be the next athlete. The people who wanted to be to lose a little weight, they wanted to be more active in life. The people who wanted to be more active actually wanted to go out and play games with their friends like golf and sports. Hobbyist sports enthusiasts want to become amateur athletes, at least in some portion of their brain. And so every single person that we've now defined as an athlete has some form of motivating factor behind them that they want to achieve more. They want to do more within this athletic world. And they simply just needed to believe they could do it. They needed to believe that they had the motivation, the energy to take that to the next level. And of course, this turned into one of the most famous ad campaigns in history, Just Do It. Now, for those who don't know Just Do It, I can't imagine that's anyone in this room, but Just Do It is one of the most pivotal marketing campaigns in the history of the world. It's still used around by Nike to this day. But what I really love about it, Just Do It, comes from a quote from Dan Whedon, so Whedon and Kennedy. He says, I was trying to write something that would tie it up so it could speak to the women who had just started walking to get in shape, all the way up to people who were world-class athletes. Now, this is nitty gritty marketing, but this is a powerful statement. But the statement goes back to the problem that we're trying to solve. What do people want from our brand? What do they want to do with our brand? And how do we communicate that in a story in such a way that people are inspired to go out and engage with us as marketers, as business owners, as products? Which brings us back to the title of the presentation today, The Creative Catalyst: How to Create Better Marketing by Asking and Answering Better Questions. And I want to stress, we're talking about the creative catalyst because I'm talking about research and asking questions as this match, this spark that ignites creativity, ignites the want, the need, and the ability to create better marketing programs for virtually any type of business. And the answer to that, the solution to that, is this answering component. So it's not just about asking questions. Again, I'm a researcher, I love to ask questions, but it's about answering questions. And in fact, not just answering, but answering with ideas. Now, this is a concept that I've really been pioneering for a while, this answering with ideas, but what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you go and talk to your whole customer base. Let's say you you could even host a mixer one night and just have all your customers come in, you talk to all of them, and what do you do with that information? Well, one great example is a creative brief. It's something that I like to write. This is something that I work with a lot of marketing teams. For those who don't know what a creative brief is, let's say you've learned as much as you possibly can about an audience, even just from talking to people, and now you need to summarize it into a 1 or 2 page document so your whole team is on the same page. That's a creative brief. It's a summary of everything that can spark those great ideas in your whole team, especially if you have some sort of team and you get a chance to sit down and talk with them. The ideas that more than one people come up with are always bigger than the sum of their parts. Likewise, you might learn that you need to be doing some sort of segmentation. You know, I asked a second ago if anyone has multiple customers with multiple products and different things. The example I always give for segmentation is Old Spice. Now, for those who don't know Old Spice, it's around a certain time and age, guys find out that they're going to be smelly. Old Spice makes it so they're not smelly. So the obvious takeaway from that is that guys are the ones who buy Old Spice, right? Well, actually, what Old Spice found out around 2008 is that only about 40% of all Old Spice purchases are made by men. Do you guys know who's buying the other 60%? That's right. That's exactly right. In fact, my wife will attest to that. So you have 2 major audiences there. And in fact, your primary audience is only buying 40% of your product. And Old Spice capitalized on that by just launching 2 whole ad campaigns. And in 2008, they actually, with the segmentation strategy, increased sales by more than 100%. I'm full of marketing stories, by the way. I love this stuff. Personas are another kind of written doc where you're writing out the full story behind each of those segments, because again, what we're trying to do is inspire creativity within anyone on your team who might be involved in marketing. And lastly is strategy. You know, we talked briefly about strategy before, we've touched on it a few times, but really when I say strategy within marketing, I'm not talking about putting up a billboard. I'm not talking about putting up a digital ad or doing a public relations campaign. I'm talking about doing each of those in sequence in such a way that they make sense to speak to your audience and move them to action. But like I said, these are answering with ideas. And what I want you to think about is, how do we infuse these with those answers to those great questions? So again, we're talking creative briefs. Well, maybe you're asking questions through market research. Maybe you're conducting surveys or focus groups. However you go about asking questions, the result from that is going to produce insights that give you better marketing tools. So you take the time to answer questions, get your ideas, you put everything down on paper. Like I said, you get your whole team together. And this is my favorite part of creativity and marketing, is everyone goes through it and they brainstorm. And in fact, it's usually when we go through this method, it's the best brainstorm anyone's ever seen. And the reason that I've found this consistently with every single team I've ever worked with is because the brainstorm, all the things that everyone's going off of to come up with ideas, comes from real information from real customers. We're not guessing. We're not just trying to say, you know what, my gut feels like we should be doing this. We're taking that completely out of the equation. And we're actually going to talk to customers to get real information to spark real ideas. And that process right there is the creative catalyst. It's a 3-step process that starts with asking great questions, answering with ideas. And like I said, at the end of the day, we're trying to create markets. Now, that is really going to be the bulk of my presentation. However, I do want to just take you into one quick thing real quick. Again, I love to ask questions within the world of marketing. That's my bread and butter. And speaking of asking questions, I went out and asked some questions recently. So I work with a lot of different marketing teams, a lot of different advertising agencies throughout the state and actually throughout the Southwest. And I also work with a lot of their clients as a result. So around Q4 of last year, I started to ask myself, well, these are 2 very different groups. Are they thinking about marketing the same way? It's obviously coming off a pandemic, which coming off. We want to know, are the ad agencies of the world, the in-house marketing teams of the world, the business owners, is everyone thinking the same? So like I said, I went out and asked. Throughout Q4 of last year, I conducted a nationwide survey. I talked to a few hundred different marketers, business owners, agency owners, and I asked them questions about what they think of marketing. I published all this in a white paper, and I wanted to just make sure everyone here got a chance to grab that. So this is totally free if anyone has interest in reading it. All you have to do is point your camera right at the screen. So open up the camera on your phone, point it at the screen, and it'll take you to a download link. Also, you can also just go to s2research.com/2021 marketing goals if you want to grab it that way. But I just like to make sure everyone knows this is a great example of answering questions. I got a few people scanning that. Incidentally, for anyone who speaks on Zoom, this concept right here is an idea I've pioneered for about a year now. Of I assume everyone on a Zoom is going to be watching on their computer, which their phone is handy. Put a little diagram together, and this has actually worked out for a lot of different things. But I like to share this for anyone who speaks as well. It's just a great way to, like we said, strategy. We want to move people to the next thing. Did everyone get a chance to scan that? All right. I'm just going to wrap up with two quick quotes from one of my favorite people, Albert Einstein. First off, creativity is intelligence having fun. And second, the important thing is to not stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matt Seltzer with S2 Research. I really appreciate your time today. Are there any questions?
Speaking of asking great questions, anyone?
So could I throw one in there?
Sure. We have a question coming from a Zoomer.
Oh.
Okay, guys, if you can hear me. So the Clark County Commission recently, without any market research, decided to rebrand McCarran Airport as Harry Reid Airport.
Yep.
Even though the Washington Post, which is probably the most liberal journal in the nation, said Harry Reid is the most loathsome, despicable, divisive politician in the history of the country. Has there been any buzz among you marketing professionals about the wisdom of naming the gateway to our city after a politician that most of the people in the country hate?
You know, I'll take politics out of that. What I will tell you is perception in marketing is everything. You nailed it. There wasn't any market research done that I've seen, at least. I could tell you that I've seen a ton of market research since then in the form of change.org petitions. There's a lot of people fighting this, and it's passionate. So taking it back a step, you know, if someone had gone out and asked those questions or conducted a short survey, I think we would have at least gotten some direction points. Now, I'm not saying whether someone should or should not change the name of the airport, but what's interesting is that has absolutely been my takeaway, that there's a lot of people outraged by this, or just they're not feeling it. It's not for them. And if you know that as a marketer ahead of time, you could put messaging in place. You could start the conversation ahead of time, knowing, look, we're going kind of an uphill battle. We need to have that information ahead of time. So to your point, that I think market research in general, just asking questions of an audience, would have helped immensely, even just as a preemptive damage control.
I've been in Las Vegas since '53, and R&R taught me that I don't belong in marketing.
Did they?
Now, when they came out with what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, I was shocked. I said, have they lost their minds? They're accentuating the negative about Las Vegas. And it turns out, like Nike, almost one of the brilliant advertising campaigns of all time.
The #2 most effective in world history, in fact.
R&R.
Yep. Yeah, and it is a powerful one.
Maybe one more question?
You get to be the last one, Billy. With today's massive marketing we're getting inundated with every minute of every day, how do you get those customers to engage with you? Cutting through the clutter. How do we do that?
See, that right there, I'll argue, is the main reason I like to ask questions. You know, 50 years ago, you could go out and if you had enough money, you're going to win at marketing. It's that simple. You put out enough billboards, you put enough ads out there, you're going to win. There's too much noise now. I've heard before that, you know, going back 100 years, you need to see an ad 3 times before you did something with it. Then I've seen it go up to 7. Now I've seen it as high as 30. And how do you even quantify something like that? So to answer your question, I like non-traditional. I mean, extremely non-traditional. I mentioned the creativity side. The more out of the box that you can think or doing things different, the more you're going to cut through that noise because people aren't expecting it. The flip to that, though, is it needs to be functional for your business. Just recently, I had a great conversation about the Super Bowl. A lot of great ads this year. Well, a lot of great ads every year. This year was good. But the question always comes up is, well, they made a great ad. Do you remember who the product was for? And as it turns out, most people can't remember the product that the ad was for most ads. Now you've taken creativity, but you've taken the function out of it. It needs to tie back to what you're trying to achieve. Now, to that point, I mentioned a second ago, kind of with my QR code, I've mentioned some PR ideas here. What are you trying to achieve? And this is going to go back in every situation, but let's say you're in a traditional B2B style business, you're tracking leads, doing something like traditional marketing, like public relations, getting your name in the newspaper or publishing an article, or maybe you're doing digital advertising. You need some way to capture those people. Maybe they're filling out a form, or maybe they're going to your website, but the entire point is, what is your goal? Well, my goal isn't to get mentions in the newspaper. My goal is to get business leads. So start with that mentality and work your way backward. That's how you make it functional.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Never lose sight of the fact that you're always trying to sell something.
Well, Matt, instead of giving you some trinket to put on your bookshelf and gather dust, we're going to make a contribution to the USO Community Service Program.
Oh, that's wonderful.
In your name.
Well, thank you so
You
much.
just said something.
Well, I don't know who's shaking hands these days, but no, I appreciate that. That's really wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for a great presentation.
I appreciate it. Oh, sure.
Well, we're losing a tracker. Poor Tim. Thank you. Well, now I know that you all appreciated hearing about the Liparelli Foundation today that you supported. And I'm going to leave up here on the table. Well, first I'll walk over. So that our Zoomers can see the thank you note that you received with all the children that you assisted at the TRF Foundation, the Tyler Robinson Foundation that you contributed to just a few weeks ago. And last but not least, I'm not actually shilling for the Las Vegas Aviators, but speaking of athletes, I want you to read the wheel this week. All the Major League Baseball players are reporting to spring training to try to get rid of that winter weight and get back in shape. And they're all looking forward to a great season coming up once they get in shape. So I want you all to think about how you can get yourself off to Rotary spring training right now and get yourself in shape for a great Rotary year. With that, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Goodbye, Zoomers. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Everyone, have a good weekend.
Stay
Have a good week,
safe.
everybody.
It was a pleasure. Bye. See you guys soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye.